After Desert Storm and prior to 9/11, the overt anti-military sentiment in popular culture seemed to be fading quickly. Likewise, overt patriotic support for the troops still wasn't where most veterans believed it should be. One very sad example of this, quote, conflict within the ranks and the competition for who's the most badass was in 1987 to 88 time frame at the very important and extremely prestigious U.S. Navy Rescue Swimmer School located on board the Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida. What is Rescue Swimmer School? Rescue Swimmer School, or RSS, is the training home for those naval air crewmen who will eventually fly in the back of helicopters, with the vitally important job of jumping into the world's oceans to save downed pilots, aircrew, and other survivors at sea. The history of the rescue swimmers is one of incredible bravery in a job that literally means the difference between life and death any time of day or night in all weather conditions, regardless if there's an actual war going on or not. And the swimmers themselves are some of the most elite and physically fit sailors that America can produce. Highly trained in sea rescue scenarios, as well as emergency medical treatment to be able to stabilize injured survivors for transport to medical facilities. The rescue swimmer truly is a highly valued member of the U.S. Navy aviation team. In that 1987 to 88 time frame, a group of rescue swimmer instructors took it upon themselves to set up a pecking order amongst the U.S. Navy's most elite job rates, that of the U.S. Navy SEALs, the Navy Explosive Ordnance Detail, or EOD, and the Navy divers, and that of the rescue swimmers. These instructors used to crow to the students, "We're just as badass as the SEALs, and that means we're more badass than the EOD and divers too. Ooh-ah." In short, trying to convince all others that the very intense physical training that the rescue swimmers went through proved that they deserved to be ranked number 2 under the SEALs. Obviously, the question arises, what the hell does that have anything to do with your training directives? That directive of providing the U.S. Navy fleet with qualified sailors capable of jumping out of helicopters into the vast oceans of the world to save down pilots, aircrew, and other survivors. Just like the famous scene in Top Gun where Maverick's backseater Goose is killed and a rescue swimmer jumps from a helicopter to recover the 2 aviators. When I arrived in Pensacola just after boot camp in the summer of 1987, I checked aboard the first phase of my aircrew training at Naval Aircrewman Candidate School, or NACAS, training to fly in the back of these fixed-wing aircraft that hunted submarines. But unbeknownst to me at the time, the Rescue Swimmer School was located adjacent to the Air Crew Training School and had been conducting unauthorized hazing events with the students attending Rescue Swimmer School, as well as the whole litany of unorthodox and in some cases sadistic training methods. After barely passing all my swim qualifications in aircrew school, such as being rolled back for inability to tread water in full flight gear, and barely making the 1-mile swim in my flight suit, only a couple of minutes under the allotted time, on my back. Because to this day, I cannot swim a standard crawl stroke even more than 1 lap without having breathing difficulties because of coordinating my stroke to my breathing rhythm, setting off a fear of drowning and panicking reflex I've had all my life. I, among quite a few other sailors, were told, "You are going to attend Rescue Swimmer School regardless of your lack of swimming schools." And when I asked why, he said, "Because you're a good boxer." So because I was good in the boxing ring, I had by that time, 10 years of martial arts training. I'm good in the ring. I should be able to jump out of helicopters into 50-foot seas and save people. That's their theory back then. But in short, because of the instructor's brutal training tactics had nearly killed some of the students in previous classes, and rumors of this abuse were rampant across the Pensacola base, and none of the newer aircrewmen wanted to volunteer for RSS, unless you were a naturally strong and gifted swimmer. This was before women were allowed in the AW rating. None of the aircrewmen I knew wanted to go through the physical and psychological warfare these instructors were meting out, pointedly brought home by the ambulance parked outside the school building every day, because it was a regular occurrence for these instructors to drown a student, then revive them on the side of the pool. They called it getting smurfed, based on the blue cartoon character, the Smurfs, because the student would turn blue for lack of oxygen. Because of these quasi-intentional drownings of students, the terms sharks and daisies and getting smurfed were well known and mightily feared. During the 4-week RSS course, students would show up to morning muster in spit-shine flight boots with crispy ironed dungaree uniforms, all standing at attention for morning uniform inspection. One stray thread or less could cause all students to be forced down into push-up position with their shiny boots now in the muddy grass just outside the schoolhouse doors. The instructors threatened the students with only 2 options. You either make it through RSS or you will quit by dropping on request, or the dreaded DOR, and be sent directly to the Navy fleet with no job, and will be chipping paint on the USS Never dock or washing food trays in some sweatbox galley for who knows how long. They said DOR and you're going to the fleet. You'll be on chocks and chains duty and chipping paint forever with no job ready because you're not a good swimmer. In my case, the Navy's threat forced me to at least try to make it through RSS. Oorah, gotta go. No quitting. Even though every night, RSS students in the barracks were in tears, stricken with fear that they would be drowned by being smurfed the next day in training. Not a great way to raise morale and build unit cohesion and teamwork. From the moment the student entered the doors of the RSS schoolhouse, the future swimmer would be bombarded all day with overly zealous physical workouts as well as psychological warfare, such as menacing instructors banging on the lockers in the pool locker room, calling for the next drowning victim while wearing a full-face hockey goalie's mask, like that of the serial killer Jason from the hit movie series. As far as I knew at the time, no other Navy training commands demanded volunteers into job positions that were so physically demanding. It would be like saying, hey, you're good at running, therefore you will go to SEAL Buds training, and you have no say in the matter. During the 4-week RSS training, every day was constant physical training, both in and out of the pool, and learning the various swimming techniques, as well as the skills needed to approach and recover a pilot or other survivor in the open ocean.